Hello, everybody. We've got a show that promises to be at least mildly interesting for your listening and watching enjoyment. I'm your host, Jared Correia. I'm the CEO of Red Cave Law Firm Consulting. For my monologue, I'm talking about the end of Stranger Things and the beginning of an It prequel series. In the interview, it's Rob Simpson of Waverider Communications. We shall ride the wave into a structured marketing program for your law firm. In the counter program, we're bringing back a seasonal game called Holidays on Holiday. Now, I've got some strange and even stranger things to address with you. I love Stranger Things. Or should I say I loved Stranger Things? Because Stranger Things just ended. And I'm about to spoil the fuck out of the last season, Stranger Things 5. Okay, so don't say you weren't warned. If you're unfamiliar, Stranger Things is a sci-fi show from Netflix created by the Duffer Brothers, real brothers, which became a massive hit during its initial release in the summer of 2016. Stranger Things is fucking great, and I've seen every episode. I love 80s pop culture because I lived through 80s pop culture. I was a young child in the 80s. And Stranger Things, my friends, is steeped in 80s pop culture. I say almost shamelessly referencing it. Stranger Things is like a big soup of all the great stuff from Gremlins and E.T. and Goonies and references to lots of other iconic 80s movies, too. It's like the J.J. Abrams movie Super 8, but a whole show spanning an entire decade. I'm a sucker for this shit, and I probably would have religiously watched Stranger Things, even if it was fucking terrible, which it is not. The good news is that Stranger Things was not fucking terrible. It's always been quite good, in fact, to me, at least. Even the Russia storyline from seasons 3 and 4 that kind of disappeared and that everybody complained about, I was very into. I was like, hell yeah, the Cold War, it's back on. Kind of wish our current foreign policy reflected that same zeal, but I digress. In addition to the sumptuous 80s throwbacks, the other thing I love about Stranger Things is that they actually put time into character development. And that's not only true of the main characters like Jim Hopper, the cranky town sheriff with a heart of gold, or Mike Wheeler, played by franchise mainstay Finn Wolfhard, the leader of the nerds, or Steve Harrington, the playboy who becomes everybody's big brother, or Joyce Byers, sci-fi icon Winona Ryder, that was weird, or even Nancy Wheeler, who's basically Rambo. Stranger Things has also done an amazing job creating side characters or characters with one-season arcs who people just love. There's not a Cousin Oliver in the bunch. You've got characters like Eddie Munson from season 4, the metalhead and presumed Satanist who saves the day. This basically put Joseph Quinn's career into hyperdrive. And Bob Newby, Joyce's well-meaning boyfriend who is summarily dispatched by a Demogorgon at the end of season 3, and who was played by Sean Astin. You know, Rudy, Sam from Lord of the Rings. Then you got Robin Buckley, who's played by Maya Hawke, who's the daughter of Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. She effectively became a member of the main cast after being introduced in season 3. And let's not forget Derek, the breakout star of season 5, fat little Derek Turnbow, not the former Red Sox reliever, just a chubby little bitch who ends up helping to save the day, along with his cache of amazing one-liners. And maybe the best introduced character was Jamie Campbell Bower, who plays the series' big bad Vecna. This dude is an amazing actor whose real human face is scarier than the monster version of his character. I even like the new Holly Wheeler, played by Nell Fisher. She was great this past season. One of the reasons I think most action movies and series are terrible now is because they don't put any time into character development. It's like the hero gets the powers and then nothing really happens until a battle sequence at the end, and then we pimp for the next movie. That's like everything Marvel does, and it fucking sucks. Stranger Things doesn't always hit, but they're at least always trying to get people to care about the characters on the show, which should be the main thing. That was a big deal in the 80s, let me tell you. I was there. Plus, the showrunners are also very good at building suspense and setting up tremendous action set pieces with a crew of alien baddies like tooth-faced dogs, the Mind Flayer, a giant spider that controls people's minds, and the aforementioned Vecna, who's kind of an evil tree man, very much a dick, and the nemesis of Will Byers, who is kidnapped by the Mind Flayer in season 1 to kick off the whole series of events. So all this begs the question, how was season 5? I thought it was very good. And I didn't have high expectations necessarily because I've always felt like this was going to be a hard plane for the showrunners to land. Stranger Things reminds me of another sci-fi show I love called Lost from the mid-2000s. In that, they just kind of threw shit against the wall in season 1 because they had no idea whether the show would become popular. Same as Stranger Things. Then it was like, oh, dang, we have to figure out what this smoke monster is actually all about now. The writers of Lost had to paint themselves out of a corner multiple times to just invent shit, which they largely did pretty well in the same way that I think the Stranger Things crew has done here. I think that with these types of shows, you're kind of in it for the lore or you're in it for the characters. And since the lore is always kind of bullshit that people make up as they go along, it's difficult to keep track of, I think it's easier / better to just be in it for the characters and let the lore and the action sequences kind of wash over you, which is what I try to do. And if you watch the last season of Stranger Things with that in mind, it was enjoyable for sure. So season 5 was released in 3 segments. 4 episodes came out on Thanksgiving night, 3 on Christmas night, and the 2-hour finale was on New Year's Eve. Thank you, Netflix. Now I don't have to talk to my family. I felt like the first 5 episodes of season 5 started out really strong and were the best part of the season, frankly. And maybe even the first 4. So episode 1, The Crawl, that kind of reoriented everybody. Effectively, they're looking for Vecna in the Upside Down, the through the looking glass type of underworld on the show, which is effectively the evil version of the real town, well, the fake town invented for the show, Hawkins, Indiana, where all the bad creatures live in the Upside Down. The people live in the real world. See, what did I say about the lore? Then the action picks up at the end where Holly, the youngest member of the Wheeler family, they're the chief protagonists of the show. They're about to be kidnapped by Vecna's minions, or she is. The second episode, The Vanishing of Holly Wheeler, has some kick-ass action sequences at the beginning as the Wheeler parents try to save Holly from the Demogorgons to no avail. Those are the dog creatures. The episode 3/4 arc, though, was the best of the season, in my opinion. Episode 3 is fucking great, and it was directed by Frank Darabont. If you don't know who that is, he directed The Shawshank Redemption, heard of it? And also Majestic, an underrated Jim Carrey movie. Apparently, he came out of retirement just to do this. Now, one thing I love about 80s media, and Stranger Things in particular, is the development and launching of the crazy or dangerous plan. The best parts of Stranger Things are when the group develops these insane plans that would never work and inevitably pull them off. And the best sequence of the whole season, the kids and their abettors come up with a plan to kidnap Derek's whole ass family by sneaking sleeping pills into a pie. And here's the best part. They basically set up a series of Home Alone-like traps for the alien that's coming to grab Derek. Props to Lucas's sister, Erica? Yeah, Erica. By the way, she's the glue guy for these type of segments usually. This was so awesome. I was cackling the whole time. Give me more crazy plans. The crazier and stupider, the better. In the companion episode 4, the plan obviously goes awry as Derek wakes up and attracts the Demogorgons, and then everything goes to absolute shit as Vecna kidnaps the kids and just starts fucking up a military platoon, including shooting his tree fingers through some poor bastard's skull for the best kill of the season. That was amazing. But the best part is that Will Byers, initially kidnapped by the Mind Flayer and essentially Vecna's bitch for the entire show, finally starts to fight back and takes over Vecna's mind to control the Demogorgons. Really cathartic scene because Will is a great character. Fuck yeah, Will. Good for you. Now, the next set of episodes, 5-7, they don't really advance the plot a tremendous amount, but they're mostly character development that Stranger Things is very attuned to. So Nancy and Jonathan break up. Steve and Dustin fight and then make up. They're best friends now. Hopper struggles with the danger Eleven/Jane, his adopted daughter, is constantly in. So Eleven's basically a super soldier. She's being tracked by the military. She's also Vecna's foil because she's the only other person with similar powers. Robin, who's a lesbian, starts talking with Will, who's gay, about his sexuality. From a plotting standpoint, there are really 2 things going on. First, Holly and Max, previously also kidnapped by Vecna, yeah, he kidnaps everybody, basically, are trying to find their way out of Vecna's mind, which segments are all kind of based on a wrinkle in time. Meanwhile, everyone else is trying to locate Vecna, who ends up being in another world entirely. The penultimate episode of Stranger Things, episode 7, features a crescendo in which Will comes out to all his friends so that he doesn't have to fear them finding out and the results therefrom. Remember, this is the 80s. Thus, he can be free of mind to battle Vecna and the Mind Flayer in the finale. And this is one of the things I love about Stranger Things, that rather than a battle with alien dogs, the most essential part of the episode that they want to center is Will's friends accepting him for who he is. Great stuff, seriously. I thought that the finale was largely more good than bad. It was a lot better than the Seinfeld finale, I can tell you that. It was kind of like the Lost finale, actually, which people hated at the time. There was a wrap-up to the lore, and then there was an epilogue about the characters. And I think this was probably always the way the end of Stranger Things was trending. So in the first half of the episode, the perfectly titled The Right Side Up, very clever, the hunt for Vecna is finally resolved. The gang uses Steve Harrington's plan to get to Vecna's hideout and then kill him and the Mind Flayer in pretty short order, with basically no fatalities. And this is one consistent beef that people have about Stranger Things. Only the side characters die, the main cast never do. People say there's too much plot armor. I guess, but this whole Game of Thrones thing where main characters have to die all the time just to give a show stakes, like that doesn't really seem necessary to me. And if you're splitting hairs about which characters would die while facing a 100-foot alien spider and his evil minion that can control people's mind and is made entirely of tree roots, the answer is all of them. All of them would fucking die. So just give in to the suspension of disbelief already. So yes, despite a couple of fake outs, no one in the main cast is actually killed until Eleven sacrifices herself. She gets blown up along with the Upside Down, so the military will stop chasing her friends. If I have one real beef with the end of Stranger Things, it's that the military plot was kind of stupid and unnecessary and just seemed like a way to sneak Linda Hamilton into the show for more 80s vibes. Proving how silly the military subplot was, once Eleven dies, apparently everybody just goes back to their old lives. Like Hopper, who must have killed over 100 Marines in this series by himself, is just allowed to go back and become sheriff like nothing ever happened? Right. Anyway, the second half of the finale is just an epilogue for all the characters. And pretty much everyone gets what they want, except for Eleven because she's dead. Or is she? The very end of the finale, I think, is actually quite well done. In it, the main cast is playing Dungeons and Dragons, and Mike tells a story in which Elle was actually saved by her super soldier sister. I'm not going to get into that. And lived on. Is this a real story? I don't think so. But I do love ambiguity. Finally, things come full circle as Mike's sister and her friends, including Derek, rush down to the basement to play their own game of D&D. So I'm sad that Stranger Things is over. And if you're a hater, I just have two things to say to you. First, as Derek said to Vecna, suck my fat one. Second, there is an animated Stranger Things prequel that's coming out, as well as a new live-action series with a new cast, because every valuable IP has to become its own universe these days. So I guess this Stranger Things isn't over after all. Now, as I mentioned also, there's a new Stephen King series on HBO called It, Welcome to Derry. It's effectively a prequel to the It movies, and it sounds like Finn Wolfhard, that's Mike from Stranger Things, and he was also in Ghostbusters, and previously he was Richie in the first It movie, is said to be involved in season 2 of that program. I think I read It when I was 10, and yeah, that's deeply fucked up, I get it. There's some gnarly shit that happens in the It book. And It, the movie and the book, is kind of a mixed bag. The first part of It with the kids, especially the 2017 movie, is pretty great. But the second part of it, when the kids come back to battle the monster again as adults post-hibernation, it's pretty boring. And the ending is really stupid. Basically, they just make fun of the alien until it dies. Like, you can come up with that shit earlier. So this series, the new series, Welcome to Derry, focuses on events occurring in 1962. The novel and the previous movies take place in 1989. That's part 1. And then 2016, that's part 2. So It is an alien that feasts on humans, of course, every 27 years and hibernates in the intervening periods. This explores the prior cycle before the first period examined in the book and the movie. Now, the first part of the show was kind of boring and weird, with some of the same flaws that Stranger Things has, ironically. There's kind of a dumb military subplot, but the second half of the first season fucking rips. One of the things about the It movies is that the It creature doesn't make a whole lot of appearances, and there's a whole lot we don't know about it. Now, while this show doesn't introduce the It character as Pennywise the Clown, one of his alter egos, though there is a cool opening sequence where an entire family is it, until episode 5, that's when the clown comes in. That's when the second half really pops off, because it's all It all the time after that. Bill Skarsgård, who is the best Pennywise, is going crazy here, just tearing shit up. Honestly, it's fucking great. You know how people are like, hey, Jaws is a great movie because Jaws the shark isn't in it that much? Well, I bet if Jaws was in it the whole time, just killing people, Jaws would be a pretty fucking unbelievable movie also. And that's what this It show is about. I can't actually believe that Skarsgård signed up for this because none of the other movie actors returned, but he is an absolute tour de force here. We even get It's full backstory and the backstory for Pennywise the Clown. Not only that, but they're developing additional seasons of the show, likely tied to It's active cycles, which also gives them the opportunity to explore different time periods on a recurring 27-year basis. I'm floating. And you'll float too, because we've got Rob Simpson of Waverider Communications coming right up. We're talking about marketing strategy and advertising on streaming. Ooh, so float down our stream next. Well, I've effectively run out of things to say, which is awkward because this is a podcast. So I'm just going to make some hot chocolate and sip it very slowly while you watch me. I have to wait for it to cool down after all. No, this is not meant to be entertaining at all. I just really want some hot chocolate. Actually, we do have a podcast to record. We even have a guest. So that's fortuitous. And that guest is Rob Simpson of the television Simpsons family. No, Rob is the CEO and founder of Waverider Communications in Boston. Rob, welcome to the show. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jared. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I'm delighted. We talk every now and then, and it's good to get one of these on wax so people can see how it goes. I was thinking back, and I want to say that we met either at the Boston Bar Association or through one of our mutual contacts at the Boston Bar Association, which would probably be Chris Strang. Am I right on that? Or
yes,
okay,
you are absolutely correct.
Okay, good. I feel good about that. Shout out to Chris Strang. I'll have to have him on the show sometimes. You are very good at participating in networking groups and organizations. I am terrible at that. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you leverage that for your business?
Sure. I got some advice when I started the business, which is going on 14 years now.
Congrats.
To show, it goes back to half the battle is showing up. And I have an extensive background of many years of being in sales for 25 years before I started the business. So the advice I got was go to networking events when you're starting out. Go to every networking event you can find.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, you will learn which are the good ones and which are the bad ones. So I used to give everything 3 strikes. If I went to an event once or twice, and by the third time it was like, this really isn't for me, then I said, okay, let's put that one off onto the side. And I would go to the events and make sure that I had plenty of business cards with me. And I looked at it from a salesman's perspective of, instead of sitting at my phone and making 50 or 100 phone calls and cold calls, which was the way things used to be done and the way I was brought up in the business, which I absolutely detest. Okay. I did it because we didn't know any other way to do it, and I hated
dialing
it.
for dollars, right?
Better.
That's the whole deal.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was awful. I would have I used to call it mashed potato ear, because you had to use a real phone back then. And I worked in situations where I had a sales manager who would sit in the middle of the office while we were supposed to be making phone calls, and he would spread out the paper and he would read the paper while he was listening to all of us make calls. So the trick that we all came up with was, before we sat down to do this, we had all the appointments made.
Oh, that's funny.
And you would call and you would be like, you would do, and it was ridiculous. It was like out of a sitcom. You pick up the phone and you hit the dial and then you hit the plunger and you'd pretend you were making the call so your boss could hear you making the call. It was absolutely ridiculous, non-productive. And yeah, it was just, it was insane. What? Yeah, get the correct time so you could check your watch. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
So
you prefer the networking events, obviously.
Right. So where the networking, how this translates into that is that the networking events are, I looked at it as if I went to an event and there were 100 people in the room, that was like, I'd be better off being in a room with 100 people than if I was trying to make 100 phone calls.
Yeah.
So you go around and you strike up conversations with people and have your business card and talk to people and see and everything like that. And my goal was I wanted to meet, on average, I wanted to meet 6 people that I wanted to follow up with and get their business cards. And I figured the formula that I worked out was, okay, 52 weeks in a year, 2 weeks off for vacation, 50 weeks left in the year. If you went to averaged one networking event a week, because like this time of year, there used to be like 2 or 3 that you could go to. The summertime is slower. So let's say you averaged one a week, and that's 50. And then if you went and you saw 6 people and you followed up and sent them I used to send emails, send them an email and say, hey, we met at this. Would you like to have coffee? I'd like to know more about what you do. Not trying to sell them anything, not anything, just wanting to establish the contact. If you meet 6 people and get the contact information and you get 3 of them to meet you for coffee, and you get half of that number, say 1.5 on average, to be somebody that you can put into your networking circle. You're somebody that you can rely on to get a hold of on a regular basis, to network and to talk. It might be 2 years before something happens where you can give them business, they can give you business.
Right.
Well, that's 1.5 times 50. That's 75 solid contacts you made in the course of a year. And I'm thinking that if you make 75 solid contacts in the course of a year, you can't help but by osmosis fall into some kind of business opportunities, or they're going to refer you to somebody. And always be willing to help first. If you could help somebody, try and help them first, so that you're showing your integrity. You're not just trying to get something out of it. You're trying to do it. You're doing it as a two-way street. And if you do that, now you're talking about, like I said, there's 75 contacts, and then you take those contacts and you put them in as they refine and you get to know people. You put them into your address book. So my address book is on my computer. And then what I do is once a quarter, and this should be like in like the first couple of weeks of the year, I will sit down with a legal pad, very old fashioned, sit down with a legal pad and look at my address book and scroll down the address book and write down everybody's names. Oh, there's Jared. Oh, there's Chris Strang. Oh, there's someone else that I know. Haven't talked. And that would come down to a list of maybe, my list has been as high as over 1,000 names within this email directory. And you go through and it's just like something that clicks in your head. And you come up with, say, 50 to 75 people. It doesn't have to be a lot. And then you send all those people an email. And someday, if I ever write my book, it's going to be How to Succeed in Sales. When I write my book, How to Succeed in Sales, 1 cup of coffee at a time.
I like that.
And
probably shouldn't have given that away on the podcast, but let's keep going.
I know. I'm a giver. So it's a matter of you have that first cup of coffee in the morning, and I would tell I've advised clients to do this. So now I've got 75 people. So I'm going to have my first cup of coffee in the morning, and I'm going to send out 5 emails to people. That's it. Hi, how you doing? Would you like to get together? 5 emails times 5 days is 25 times, that's 3 weeks. So if you do this to start off your year as your resolution, you do that for 3 weeks in January, and you set up your meetings. And you never know what's going to happen. And it might be, hey, how you doing? You've been on my list for doing that for over 10 years.
I feel very fortunate.
That's why
I'm honored.
You'll hear from me every once every 3 months. And I have people who've said, if you didn't contact me, I would never get out to do anything or something like that. And so, I'm helping shut-ins, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
But it's a really great way to stir the pot. when all else fails, do that. Because way back in the dark ages in the previous century, when I started my career, the philosophy was, when in doubt, grab a handful of business cards, get in your car, and go to an area, depending on what you're selling, industrial parks, offices, different things like that. Obviously, it was a lot easier to get into office buildings before September 11th. If you wore a suit, you could walk in anywhere.
Yeah, it's open season.
And you could walk in and you could just knock on any door and be very polite and introduce yourself and do that. Well, as things evolve and things change, this is, I found, a much better and more efficient way to be able to do that. And I do a thing, I recommend that people do this, say once a year at least, is I do what I call a client genealogy. Okay, there's another thing. I should trademark it. I know.
This is great for the audience.
So what you right. So what you do is you go back and you look at everybody that you're doing business with, and you ask the question of, how did I get them?
Oh yeah.
And if it was from networking, then not just I got it from networking, it's from what event? Was it the Boston Chamber of Commerce? Was it from a networking group I'm in? Was it the Boston Business Journal had an event and I met that person there? Were they referred to me by somebody that I know from my networking efforts? So you try and go one or two levels deep to find out where it is. And then you can make a list, and then you can see, well, I always thought that I should be making 100 phone calls a day, and I'm finding out that after the course of 10 years, I've gotten zero business from doing that. Whereas if I use my connections and I do this particular chamber of commerce or this particular group is accounting for 50% of my revenue. Well, okay, then I'm going to go to where the 50%, another great salesman's saying that I learned a long time ago is, they asked Willie Sutton, why did he rob banks? And he said, because that's where the money is. So if you're going to do that, why am I going to continue to do that? Because it's that which I've always done and I'm comfortable with, as opposed to analyzing and looking at the performance of what have I been doing so that I can do more of what works and less of what doesn't.
I love this. This is great. I appreciate you breaking it down systematically like that, because I think a lot of attorneys don't consider themselves salespeople, but these are all good tips. All right, let me ask you this.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about why you started your own business? Like, what did you do before, and why did you decide, I'm going to do my own thing now? Because you worked for somebody else for a while before you started your own company.
Yes. I started my career in advertising, and as the years go on, it kind of turns my stomach more and more to say it. I started my career selling Yellow Pages.
Oh yeah, let's get into it.
And I grew up in Connecticut, and I worked for the now non-existent Southern New England Telephone Company. And believe it or not, I started out my career, not only was I a Yellow Pages sales representative, but I was one of the last union sales representatives in the world.
Really?
We were part of the telecommunications union.
Huh.
And I was with the company for 6 months. They went on strike. The strike was supposed to last for a week because people wanted a week off in the summer, and it ended up lasting for 4 months. And part of the deal that they made with the union was that we could go back, because the thing they had agreed on was we were going to no longer be union salespeople.
Oh yeah,
so
they must have loved that.
Walt
Disney
concept
would be
of a
very
union
proud.
salesperson was just foreign to me. Anyway, so I did that for 5 years, and then I got into what was that golden era. I went to television, and I started my career at an independent TV station in Connecticut. And then I went to when there was a WB network. The WB network first went on the air.
They had the Dancing Frog, right? Is that the WB network?
At Michigan J. Frog. I still have the poster.
Nice.
I have it rolled up in here. Someday I'm going to frame it. I have a poster from the opening night of the network.
That's amazing.
Yep. The reason is that the network premiered on my birthday, and the date is on the poster. So that's why I got that. That's
really
why I kept it. So it was the WB, and it was a startup television station in the Hartford television market, located in New Haven. And I was the first account executive they hired.
Really? That's crazy.
So I got to do everything. I created the presentation folders. I created the collateral material. I did everything, and I based a lot of it on my Yellow Pages training and put everything together. And it was very successful and went very well. And then the joke is, as soon as they hired the second account executive, I got my account list cut in half,
Right,
because the entire world was my account list. And I went from there. I was there for 2 years, and then I went to WFSB, which is the CBS affiliate in Hartford. So I went from the real little guy to the biggest station in the market. So it gave me a really good look at the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, that's cool.
Of that. And then I left there in the end of 1999. I was offered a job at Channel 38 in Boston. And that's what brought me to this area to move up here.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
I was there for a few years. And then I went and I was with Comcast selling regional cable for 7 years. And after 7 years of doing that, they had made a company-wide offer to people with a package. And
Like, get the fuck out. Here's your parachute.
I looked at my numbers and I took it. And I thought, I had planned on thinking of what could I do on my own. I had a couple of wise mentors who always said, have an FU fund, so that if he said, you have an FU fund, and I'm doing this because it's a kids program.
It's not a child's program, but that's all right.
Okay.
You can swear. I give you permission.
Okay. So the deal was, have enough money so that if you got sick one day, you could go in there and tell them where to go, and you could survive for a period of time. So I always had that in the back of my mind, was if the worst ever happened, what would I do? And I went in on Friday and they said, we're making this offer. Come in Monday morning and talk to your wife about it and let us know what you want to do. I was free to stay if I had wanted to. And I found out that the reason that they did this was because I had a lot of experience. And about a month later, Comcast announced that they were buying NBC.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
So what they did was they made a lot of offers to people. And I just saw from being on LinkedIn over the last week that there are people that I worked with that were still there who have taken the most recent offer that they've made.
The circle of life.
Yeah. So I took that offer and I ran with it, and I started my own business. And it was Robert Simpson Associates, which actually happened to be a business that my dad had incorporated in Connecticut when I was a kid. So I did it as an honor to him.
That's cool.
And I did that for a year and realized that I need to have a name. I need to have this. And I put a whole bunch of time into it. And I always say that the time that it was Robert Simpson Associates and that year, because I had the cushion of being able to really do things and settle in to do it the way I wanted to do it. And I always say that was like the year that Bruce Wayne spent in Tibet when he became Batman.
Wow. We got a Batman Begins reference. Beautiful.
So, and it was kind of like it was the trial by fire. And what I originally thought when I started the whole thing, because I used to handle this in my TV career, I was planning on producing paid programming. I thought that would be a really fun thing to do. And that model for a small business, was not an economical model to have. So I as I got out of that and then formed Waverider and formed the LLC and did all of that, we've evolved over time from, consulting in all different forms of advertising to, email campaigns, social media, all kinds of digital things like that, sales consulting, which is kind of the secret sauce that I have that a lot of marketing agencies don't have.
Yeah, clearly you're quite good at that. So
sidestep a lot of small agencies start because traditionally you have a copywriter and an artist who are paired together as a creative team, and they get mad at the big powers that be and they go off on their own, and they're very creative and they come up with wonderful copy and wonderful campaigns and all kinds of great work and everything, but they don't know how to get any clients because they have no sales experience. So I kind of did it the opposite way of, I knew how to set up structures and prospecting and going after business and how was I going to do this. And then I started a team of I have my confederation of people where I have producers and editors and writers and videographers and people, and the team and the company is as big or as small as I need it to be. And it took me almost 14 years to come up with this. But you can see the career in television and everything else like that. And the way that I think, because this is kind of how I have fun in having my own businesses, I've come to look at it like the Avengers.
Oh, this is great. We got a lot of references going today.
Well, I know, played. And what you need, right? And what you need is so sometimes you need Iron Man, sometimes you need Captain America, sometimes you need, whatever Scarlett Johansson was.
Black Widow.
I can't remember. Yeah, Black Widow. Sometimes I should know this. Sometimes you need all.
Well, you got DC, you got Marvel, Hulk. You got a lot to balance.
Yeah. So sometimes you look at it and they have sometimes you just need one or two of them, and sometimes the whole world is at stake and you need the entire team. So I look at it that way, as I have professionals that I can bring in to be able to do what we need to do. And I think what really has driven this and really kept it going, to be honest, over the last 14 years, is that it's creative and it draws on my experience that I can do, but it got me out of the corporate end of things where I had to continue to produce reports and I had to do all of that stuff. So it's all of the good stuff that I've been able to do without all of the bad stuff.
No TPS
that
reports.
I didn't want to do. And what it's done is it's been challenging, and and everything has its ups and downs. It's been a lot of fun, and it may sound trite to say that, but when it's fun, it's a lot more fun to get out of bed in the morning.
Sure. Okay, let me ask you this.
So,
congrats on all your success. Now, we were talking recently about advertising on streaming, which I think is fascinating, and I know very little about.
Okay.
How does that? Let's talk about law. Like, how does that work for a law firm? Like, if they wanted to get into streaming advertising, like first steps.
Well, of course, the first step I'm going to say is first you have to do is call me.
Naturally.
So what you want to do is there are multiple streaming services that are out there. So you can there's Hulu, there's Paramount Plus. My company, we are certified Hulu ad managers. We are certified Paramount Plus ad managers. There are also other companies that go on multiple different platforms. There's a terrific company I work with called Jamloop that can put you on anything. And they also do internet advertising in addition to doing the streaming TV.
So you could do a double dip, basically, if you want to.
You can do a double dip. Like I had a client that was in Brooklyn that has 12 vintage clothing stores, and our campaign was about 60% online and 40% big screen. They call it television. Streaming. Yeah. So you can have it that way, and it's vintage clothing, and they're around a lot of college campuses in New York. So it was designed for that audience.
So you could target that effectively on a streaming platform.
Yes, and that is the biggest point to streaming advertising is, we used to have the age of broadcasting, and broadcasting is you send a signal out over the air and somebody has something that can catch it and you see it, and you get a lot of waste because you're out in that area. And then cable TV brought us narrowcasting, where you could be in a cable zone, where you could be in like 6 or 7 or 8 towns, or like one big town, like Boston was split up into 4 different zones to be able to get that, but you're still in a larger kind of area. Now we're into microcasting, where if you tell me that I want adults 18 to 35 with an income of under $75,000, who have an education level of X, who drive this car or whatever, they will come up with a profile, and I'm going to do it again. It's like the old bat computer. It comes up and gives you a list of, if you want this person that has all of these characteristics, this is what they watch. And there are computer programs where it's done automatically, where we say, this is who we want. And what you may think at the top of your head is, well, if I want this audience, I want this programming. And it turns out to be the complete opposite. So
everybody's watching like Antiques Roadshow. No, go ahead.
Right. So you think that. Well, it's funny. You mentioned in the intro about The Simpsons, and way back when, they used to have diaries for TV ratings, and you'd have diaries and people would write down what they watch. And then they went to meters in the bigger markets where there was a machine hooked up there. So you didn't have to write anything down. It just recorded what they did. And one of the biggest things they found was the first season that they did meters in those markets was the ratings for 60 Minutes came down precipitously, and the ratings for The Simpsons went up precipitously, or not precipitously, but went up dramatically, because people were writing that they were watching 60 Minutes because they wanted everybody to think they were smart. And they were really watching The Simpsons. So then the numbers came out as to what they were really watching. There was a discrepancy there.
That's awesome. I'm so erudite. I'm over here watching 60 Minutes.
Yeah. So you can't fool. It's like, what is that? Dan Rather said, the camera never blinks. You can't fool what's actually being recorded as going on there. So so the way it would work is a firm would decide who are they looking for? I'm looking for this demographic, using personal injury as the most obvious case. I'm looking for people in this age group with all of these characteristics. You come up with who you want your message to go to. And then we decide how many impressions we want to get. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 a month, however, 100,000, however many you want to get. And you set up the schedule that way. And it's not like in television, when I sold broadcast TV, you had to sit and sweat the next morning. Okay, I put somebody in the Bruins game and I told him it was going to do this rating. Right. Did it do that rating? And you had to wait for the ratings to come out. It's guaranteed delivery. So if you want to reach 50,000 people that hit that demographic in the course of a month, you're going to reach 50,000. And if we're halfway through the month and you're at 40,000, they up the number of times it's served. Oh, they look for more people.
Now, can you do multiple shows or events, or is it just like you're targeting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Huh. Okay.
Absolutely. So it's not like you're just putting it into one place. You can get anywhere that you want. And if it's too fast, they'll slow it down so that it paces itself out for the end of, because we got you 100,000 and it's the 15th of the month and we're going to stop. They don't do that. So everything is programmed. It's programmatic so that it goes through that as far as that goes. And the other thing that is the big selling point of this is you could do it in as small an area as a zip code.
Interesting.
So instead of having to reach a cable zone or an entire town or however you want to do it, and the way that this would fly into what I think of from my background, the way this flies into this and what we're talking about is, Morgan & Morgan is everywhere. To use a legal example.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So, I was in Los Angeles on business a couple of years ago, and I'm driving from the airport, and every other billboard is a Morgan. They're the official firm of the Angels, and they're this and they're that.
Like every sports team in America.
Yeah, and so they're all over the place with that, and so they have the wherewithal to be able to do that. But if I am in Massachusetts or New England or anywhere in the country, but I'm really the top-notch personal injury guy or the top-notch family law guy or the top-notch whatever segment you want to say it is, but I'm in Worcester County, I'm in Suffolk County, Norfolk County, I'm in this area, I'm in this town on the South Shore, and maybe I want to start developing my reputation and everything, but I don't have those types of resources to be able to do this. This is the perfect way to do this. So instead of spending, there is a lawyer. I will not use his name because I don't want to get in trouble and say a lawyer's name. But I was told by a colleague that there is a certain law firm or lawyer in the area, in the Boston area, who, as of about 5 or 6 years ago, I think was spending $100,000 a month in Google AdWords.
I'm holding back from guessing. Have to go on, please.
Okay.
Help me. Okay. Save me from myself.
That'll be a conversation for lunch.
Yes, we'll do that offline.
And then I'll run it past my lawyer and see if I can say it. So, so we'll do it. So you do that, and then you don't have to have $100,000. You don't have to buy that much influence in being able to do that. The guys I work with at Jamloop say that their average is usually their average in all kinds of businesses usually runs about $3,000 to $4,000.
Which is totally reasonable.
You can do it for as little as, but I mean, I would rather, and in my career I've done this, I would rather tell someone, don't do it if you're not going to spend enough to try and make a significant dent in something. Just because, I'm not saying hundreds of thousands of dollars, but, if you want to do streaming advertising and you want to produce a commercial and you want to spend $100 on it over 1 week and not do it anymore, don't do it. But if you want to do a commercial and you want to have something put together and you want to look at 2,500, 3,000, 3,500. Now what you do is take one or two zip codes in your area where you're relatively well known and own it. Own that area. Be the Morgan and Morgan of area code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And be that guy and dominate that area. And then as you start to see cases come in and results come in and you can leverage it and you can go from there, then we go to 2 zip codes and then maybe we go to 4, and then you can take it from there and see how it can grow from there. I'm a very big believer in when you do something, make sure you do it with a solid foundation, and if your leg's underneath you so that you're not biting off too much, do it solidly, do it responsibly, and then be able to grow intelligently, because in the long run you'll be much better off.
How about like the content production, right? Because like you got to put a commercial together. Like do they assist you with that? Go ahead.
Yep. I have a producer that I work with that I've worked with for years, going back to my days when I was in sales, and he took care of commercials for clients that I worked with. So in fact, on my website, I think this is the point I'm supposed to say, waverider.com, COMN.com. There are video clips of some things that we've done. And one of them was an animated, we did an animated corporate video for a freight forwarding company. And it was really cool because the guy who did the voiceover is the guy who does the voiceover for Nova on PBS.
Cool. Freight forwarding, that sounds like Vandal Industries from Seinfeld. I'm in the import-export business.
Right. So it's funny because I tried to explain it to a friend. I did this as a test. I tried to explain what this company did, and I couldn't do it. It was like 5 minutes, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing. We did the video. I showed it to a friend of mine. The video was 1 minute and 3 seconds long, and she looked at me and she said, "You've been trying to tell me this for a month as to what this company does. Now I get it."
That's awesome.
So this was a company that's so good at what they do. They had a contract with a pharmaceutical company in the Boston area, and they actually had some substance that was a white powder that was used for industrial purposes.
For industrial purposes.
They were able to get white powder into Colombia.
That's great.
So
they're good at what they do.
They
clearly.
did that. They had. What did they do? They got from North America down to South America, Shakira's piano or some type of stuff. It was like international freight forwarding to be able to do the logistics of moving that kind of stuff. And if you look at the video online, it's 1 minute and 3 seconds long. What I just said doesn't do it justice, but it explains. So that's the kind of work we do. We've done everything from that to doing a commercial for the stores down in Brooklyn, as far as that goes. And we can do very effective, very efficient producing of getting the message out. So if you come to us, we can do it as a one-stop place where we'll evaluate your needs, we'll figure out what you want to do, we'll come up with what the creative is, we'll create we'll create the spot for you and everything else like that, and then we'll make sure it runs, and then we'll work with the company that whoever we place it with on the platform, and you can get real-time results, so that if you wanted to, every day, every week, every couple of weeks during a schedule, we can give you a report as to how we're doing, so that we know what kind of progress we're making.
Rob, thank you. This was truly delightful. I think we'll end on the white powder reference. Will you hang around for one last segment? Do you have time?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a
Thank
second with Rob Simpson. All right, welcome back, everybody. It's time for your favorite segment and mine, the Counter Program. It's a podcast within a podcast. This is a conversational space where we can address usually unrelated topics that I want to explore at a greater depth with my guests. Expect no rhyme and very little reason. For this segment, I'm bringing back an old favorite. It's called Holidays on Holiday, because we're still pretty close to the New Year's Day, and 2026 is already looking fantastic. Anyway, Rob, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm fine.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, this game is pretty straightforward. I'm going to tell you about a holiday, which is either real and possibly defunct, or I've totally just made it up. So all you have to do is tell me whether it's a real holiday or not. So I hope your bullshit detector is strong on this one. I'll start slow. Are you ready for number one?
Yes.
I'm not going to I won't read the description right away because you may know this one off the top of your head. We're going to start easy. December 23rd. It's a holiday called Festivus. Is this a real event or something that I just made up? I can read your description if you want. Festivus.
That's a trick question.
It kind of is. Go ahead. Explain to the people why.
It kind of is a trick question because it really isn't a holiday.
Yeah.
But there are people who now celebrate it because I get messages like this December 23rd. I have friends who send me messages on December 23rd. I'll get a text from a friend of mine that says Happy Festivus.
Yes.
Or Festivus for the rest of us.
I feel like it should be a holiday. I think it's real.
I will tell you that when I worked at Comcast, we had a Christmas tree and a menorah in the office. And I went to the defunct Bed Bath & Beyond, and I was in there with my wife, and I found this paper towel holder, and it was a silver thing in the ball, and it was a stick, and you're supposed to put the paper towel roll on it. Well, I bought it and brought it to work, and I put it on my desk, and somebody said, "What is that?" And they said, "It's my Festivus pole. I'm entitled to celebrate a holiday."
Great.
So I'm going to have to, I don't know. I don't know if there's a correct answer to that.
You get credit for both. All right. I just wanted to start us off.
Talk about a bullshit detector. I mean, really. But.
Are you ready for the second holiday?
I hope so.
This one is called the Feast of the Long Shadow. The Feast of the Long Shadow, December 21st. Time to coincide with the winter solstice. This holiday is a celebration of geometry and local geography. Communities gather at the highest point in their town to observe the exact moment the sun casts the longest shadow of the year. Participants use colorful chalk to trace the shadows of trees, buildings, and loved ones on the pavement, creating a frozen map of the year's lowest light. It's a day of quiet reflection and scientific curiosity, often followed by meals of long foods like noodles or asparagus. The Feast of the Long Shadow, December 21st. Is this a real holiday or am I completely full of shit? We love math here.
I'm going to say this is not a real holiday.
You got it. You're 2 for 2. It's a fake holiday.
Okay.
Totally made up. All right. You're pretty good at this. And
you know what it was? It was the long noodles was the tip off to me. I don't know why, but
you're in the gauntlet now and you're doing quite well.
Okay.
All right. Number three. Unplugged Eve, December 14th. Unplugged Eve. Born out of a modern desire for mental clarity, this is a contemporary secular holiday dedicated to digital silence. From sunrise to sunset, participants power down all electronic devices to reconnect with tactile hobbies and face-to-face communications. The day is characterized by analog exchanges where neighbors trade physical books, handwritten letters, or jars of preserved food. In the evening, the holiday concludes with the Lantern Walk, where neighborhoods are illuminated solely by candlelight or oil lamps, reclaiming the dark winter night from the blue glare of screens. Sounds beautiful. Unplugged Eve, December 14th. Real or fake?
I'm going to say that's real.
That is fake.
Okay.
Totally made up.
I've heard of things. I've heard of people doing that though, having a
Might be an unofficial
unplugged-
holiday.
There is something like that. There's an unplugged day or something that people advocate for, but
No unplugged Eve, unfortunately.
Uh-huh.
You're
Okay.
doing good though. You're still doing good. 2 out of 3 is not bad. All right, next. The Festival for the Souls of Dead Whales. December 10th. It is attributed to the Inuit, originally celebrated by indigenous peoples of the Arctic and subarctic regions. It remembers the souls of whales who have died due to whaling and other human activities that impacted them. It acknowledges the ecological harm imposed by whaling. There's no specified traditions for this day, but some observances include a ceremony for the souls of the dead whales, whale watching, and watching documentaries about conservation like blackfish. The Festival for the Souls of Dead Whales. The food must be amazing. December 10th. Real or fake holiday?
I'm going to say fake.
That is a real holiday.
It is. Okay.
You can celebrate it yourself next December 10th if you wish.
I will. I'm going to put it in my phone. No, the reason I thought about that was I thought that people like that their cultures were based on whaling. So I didn't think that they would feel sorry for the whales because that was their...
They've turned around and now they love the whales.
Okay, so it was a logical line.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it went absolutely nowhere.
This is why I like having smart business owners on the podcast, because they really try to reason it out. All right, I got 2 more for you.
Okay.
Let's see how we do.
Okay.
Zamenhof Day, December 15th. Zamenhof Day, celebrated by the global Esperanto community. This day honors the birth of L.L. Zamenhof, the Polish-Jewish ophthalmologist who created the world's most successful constructed language. It's a celebration of linguistic idealism and international peace. Unlike national holidays that celebrate a single culture, Zamenhof Day is inherently borderless. Participants around the world gather for cultural meetups, poetry readings, and lectures, often conducted entirely in Esperanto. It is customary for Esperantists to purchase a new book in the language or exchange literature, honoring Zamenhof's belief that a shared neutral tongue could dissolve the walls of misunderstanding between nations. Zamenhof Day, celebrating Esperanto on December 15th of every year, taking place after Unplugged Eve. Is it real? Is it fake? I'm really getting into this.
I'm going to say real.
Real. All right. This is great.
It is?
Yes, it's a real holiday.
I got it right.
You did.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so I got one more for you. And this is the difference between splitting and going 3 for 3 or batting above 500. I got one more.
Here we go.
It is National Emo Day. National Emo Day, December 19th. As a celebration of personal expression, National Emo Day identifies those who are part of the emo subculture. The emo subculture was born in the 1980s music scene, combining post-hardcore, alternative indie, and punk rock. Bands associated with emo culture include Weezer, Jimmy Eat World, My Chemical Romance, and Panic at the Disco. Most emo bands are noted for wearing black clothing, heavy makeup, and studded accessories like body piercings, as well as band t-shirts. Although none of this is required to be an emo fan or part of the subculture. More than anything else, those who identify as emo respect the art form and the emotions expressed through both the sung and spoken word. National Emo Day also taking place on December 19th. Real holiday or nay?
I'm going to say no.
Can you tell me why? Because you're very wrong.
Okay. That's very wrong. Okay. I don't know. It just didn't make any sense to me. And I was almost thinking how many have been real and how many haven't been. So at the end, I was trying to figure out what the law of averages would say. That's the numbers guy in me, I guess.
Uh-huh. And that's why I didn't do 3 and 3.
Okay.
But instead 4 and 2.
Okay.
Maybe after this, you can go listen to a little bit of Weezer and just have a day.
Okay. Then I will emo with it. I do have
Rob,
one. Here's
you.
one for another time for you is,
Yeah. Go ahead.
created something that I always call it. I'll tell you right up front, it's not a real holiday, but I call
alas.
December 21st International Optimists Day.
Oh, really? I like that.
Because it's
I
the
would've gone for
shortest
that.
day of the year. So if you're an optimist, you say every day is going to get longer from now on.
That's good. I think we should try to establish this as a regular holiday before I do this segment again. I think we can.
It's kind of like it's Festivus Eve because it's December 21st.
I love it. It's amazing. Rob, lots of holiday input, lots of streaming input. Thanks for taking the time, man. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I'm glad we got to do it.
Me too. All right, we'll talk again soon. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks to our guest, Rob Simpson of Waverider Communications. To learn more about Rob and Waverider, visit waveridercom.com. COMM.com. Waveridercom is in communications.com. Now, because I'll always be a 90s kid who's definitely not emo, but can appreciate Jack's Mannequin nonetheless, but whose true passion is burning CDs for anyone who would listen, I'm now just doing the modern version of that, which is creating Spotify playlists for every podcast episode that I record, where the songs are tangentially related to an episode topic. This week's playlist is extra frightening, given the sci-fi bent we've taken here. We've got songs from horror movies. The Stranger Things series might be over. Now, I've got to wait for the movie, I guess. This is all sponsored by Count Chocula cereal. No, wait, it's not sponsored by Count Chocula. I've got my Frankenberries in a bunch. Join us next time when I read the entire Torah